Welcome everyone to the Cabinet meeting for climate change and greening the city. I am Councillor Kimberly Barrett and the Cabinet member, and I will be chairing this meeting today. Bit of housekeeping and safety information. If the continuous fire alarm sounds, please do evacuate the room and the public gallery by the stairwells. Do not attempt to use the lifts, and please do assemble near Queen Victoria's statue in Guildhall Square. In order to comply with the Guildhall Trust fire marshal regulations, anyone who signed in at the reception desk should sign out when leaving the building at the end of today's meeting. Everyone speaking via a microphone will be recorded and broadcast on the website, including anyone who is making deputations, but that's not today. Members of the press and public are also permitted to record the meeting on the understanding that it will neither disrupt the meeting nor record those stating explicitly they do not wish to be recorded. Can anyone using the microphones remember to switch them off when they've finished in order for the camera to move to the person speaking? Just say we hopefully have all read the report, so if officers could just highlight any developments that have occurred since publication, that would be fantastic. So I'll start off with introductions, and I will start off, let's go with Councillor Simpson.
You've actually already done my introduction for me. So Councillor Russell Simpson, Hilsey Ward.
Councillor Charlotte Gerardo, Central Southsea.
Dominique Latouze, Assistant Director of Public Health.
Daniel Williams, Public Health Principal.
Felicity Harris, Green and Healthy City Coordinator.
Christina Downey, Climate Change Officer.
Jane Dodino, Local Democracy Officer.
Brilliant, thank you everybody. Just to check, have there been any apologies for absence today? No? Okay, thank you. Any declarations of interest from anybody at all today? No? Great to hear. Okay, well, if that's the case, then I will jump on straight to the first report. So I will pass over to Dan, if that's okay.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. So the purpose of this report, the Portsmouth Greening Strategy and Delivery Plan, is to introduce the revised Portsmouth Greening Strategy and Delivery Plan, which serves to inform and set the Green and Healthy City Work Programme in future. You'll note a slight change of title here. At the briefing meeting, we were calling it a development rather than a delivery plan. Following advice from legal, we've made that amendment to make it clear that this is not a statutory planning document, rather it's our declaration of strategic intent for the greening agenda. And with a delivery plan arising out of the strategy on which we plan to work collaboratively, initially with all the internal stakeholders identified by the plan, and then the external ones. Recommendations-wise, we're asking the portfolio holder to approve the strategy and development plan. We recognise that the greening agenda is broad, with significant activities being undertaken by those aforementioned stakeholders across council services and by partner organisations in the city. And these activities contribute to our broader environmental aims as a council. The portfolio holder is therefore asked to support presentation of the strategy and development plan to Cabinet, where approval for the direction of travel will also be sought. In terms of anything else exceptional, I don't think there is anything else. I can recap on the content of the strategy if you would like me to.
Maybe a brief summary, if that's all right, in case anyone's listening.
So the 2020 strategy, which this refreshes or revises completely, had four main aims: greening the public realm, greening private space, grassroots engagement, and looking at our policy approach. How does the broad policy environment set by the council support and improve green infrastructure in the city? This new strategy is based on a comprehensive evidence and policy review undertaken by Public Health, focusing on urban greening against the backdrop of the climate crisis to better understand the best planting strategy for the city in terms of biodiversity, climate mitigation, flood mitigation, and air pollution mitigation, and other benefits of greening to physical and mental health. The strategy presents a high-level vision for a greener Portsmouth, contributing to the aspirations set out in Imagine Portsmouth 2040. The new strategy also includes maps of the city with the aim of allowing us to prioritise greening initiatives according to need in terms of existing green space against a range of different factors and develop an action plan. And some of those factors are gaps in access across the city, action on flooding with maps to understand where that might be necessary, air quality maps to determine where interventions would be best placed in terms of tackling local hotspots of poor air quality, understanding the connectedness of green spaces and the position of any corridors with the aim of strengthening ecological networks and reducing habitat fragmentation. The review also looks at whether and how gaps in accessibility to quality green space tally with areas of deprivation to understand where our biggest benefits in terms of health, well-being and community are likely to be achieved by introduction of new green space. We're also looking at where green social prescribing initiatives are running locally and in order to target areas of greatest need there. Based on the evidence review and mapping, the strategy argues that for Portsmouth to improve its residents' health and adapt to changes in the climate, there is a requirement for a planned and managed green infrastructure programme. New, inclusive and equitable green space should be provided, while existing green space must be protected, improved and maintained. And if greening is going to achieve maximum impact, we'll need to deploy a mix of approaches. Working from the evidence, the strategy has the following 8 objectives, green infrastructure objectives. To create, installing new multifunctional GI, prioritising those areas with the poorest access. Second, to improve and develop existing GI to better suit the needs of the population and wildlife. 3, to protect, preventing the removal of or damage to existing GI during building works. 4, to maintain, ensuring that GI is well maintained and that plans are in place for effective funding, governance and stewardship, so to enable long-term sustainability and resilience. 5, to connect, improving connectivity of GI within the city, reducing habitat fragmentation and improving opportunities for active travel through quiet corridors. 6, in terms of access, to promote and provide healthy, accessible facilities across all social groups and areas of the city. 7, active, increasing use of GI by developing activity programmes and green social prescribing. And then finally 8, to evaluate, ensuring that systems are in place for evaluation of new GI projects so that benefits can be measured and informed decisions can be made in future. As previously mentioned, the second section of the document is a delivery or action plan, and it takes each of those aforementioned objectives in turn, relates it to one of our key priorities, and then details proposals, actions, and potential stakeholders. This is inevitably a work in progress and will be revised and updated as we further develop our proposals in liaison with stakeholders. Just to briefly return to the mapping in the strategy, assessments of current green infrastructure have been undertaken to begin to provide maps that allow us to have a better understanding of the quantity, quality, character and distribution of green space. And this evidence-based analysis identifies the following as our key localities to focus on. Charles Dickens, Nelson, Cosham, Central Southsea, Fratton and South West Copner. This doesn't preclude green infrastructure projects elsewhere in the city, it's simply those are the places where we'll get the best outcomes from limited resources. To this end, we're planning to build on this work and what's noted in the strategy paper by introducing a scoring system based on a tool called Urban Greening Factor, which will help us to assess and prioritise projects. We're also working with colleagues at the UK Health Security Agency's Centre for Climate and Health Security to develop use of this tool and our mapping by drawing in national resource and data that they collect, and we'll no doubt return to you with another paper in on this in due course. Community engagement obviously remains a high priority of the strategy, as it was in the 2020 version, and before each plan proposal can move forward, partnership working with a diverse and inclusive set of stakeholders must be established. And our existing partnerships and relationships will be used to advantage in this respect. And building on this, we're currently recruiting to 2 new engagement-focused posts made possible through a successful external grant application to the Woodland Creation Accelerator Fund. In respect of consultation, the revised greening strategy and delivery plan has been circulated to and discussed by members of a new greening development group, constituted as a subgroup of the Climate Programme Board, from representatives across the Council to help guide the greening agenda. We have had and have incorporated feedback from planning and housing, neighbourhoods and building services into the strategy and are making sure that the document aligns with the Green City chapter of the draft local plan. And we remain open to any further feedback on the document prior to taking it to Cabinet should the portfolio holder give us leave to do so. Finance are happy with the paper and strategy and have no suggested amendments. And so, yeah, I recommend the papers to you.
Thank you
Happy
very
to
much.
take any questions.
Thank you very much, Dan. I have to say I was really impressed with the report, especially we have to keep upgrading and re-looking at this because things change all the time as well. Obviously, we work with some amazing partners and organisations, community groups across the city as well. So it's great to have their feedback, but also the feedback from the various departments across the council as well, feeding into everything because this what we do here in regards to greening and environmental services, climate change, it feeds into every part of the council and public health. I know Dominique sat there, it does feed into public health as well. So we need to be making sure that we're on top of it and refreshing where we need to, adding bits. So really impressed with the report and I'm really pleased that we are focusing on certain areas, as you've mentioned, Dan. Obviously we're looking at Charles Dickens, Nelson, Central Southsea, Cosham, South West Copner, isn't it, and Fratton, sorry. As you mentioned, it doesn't mean that we're solely focusing on them. It just means that those are priority areas for us. We will do projects where we can elsewhere across the city, but we know there's a real need here and we can really do some good in those wards of the city. I know we discussed this at a previous meeting, so I wanted to get feedback from members as well, and I'm pleased to say I think we're all on board in regards to that, and it's quite exciting going forward. So thank you very much for that. Councillors, any questions or comments at all? Or Councillor Gerarda?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks so much for the report. Sorry, this is really difficult to look at you and speak at the same time, so I'm just going to look at Kimberly, sorry. It's a really excellent report, and I really agree with the areas that have been identified because, they're clearly the areas of greatest need, and obviously not being biased, but in Central Southsea, we are really just landlocked and there's a lack of green space, so any type of additional greening or improvement to existing greening is going to be really important there. What I really liked about the report is that it mentioned a lot about greening streets, but also connecting the green spaces that we have and building more of a network. Obviously, that's really important in terms of creating wildlife corridors, enhancing biodiversity, but also it just makes our streets nicer and makes our city more pleasant to walk down, especially because of the lack of trees and greening that we've got. So I think that's going to make a really, really big difference. One thing I will say, it does feature in the report, but just in terms of the feedback I get from residents about greening, it'd be great if we can really empower residents, because there are a lot of people who are really wanting to take matters into their own hands and, make their streets look nicer and do planters and, put in more trees and things like that. So anything that we can do to, really empower residents to do things down their roads as neighbours, I think has huge benefits for the environment and also for the public. So, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Russell?
Yeah, I didn't have any questions, but just comment, very much what Charlotte was saying, really a very thorough report, and it's not really surprising the areas that have been highlighted, really. Even to the point, even a little tiny bit in Hilsey, but I'm not surprised it's that bit of Hilsey. But exactly the same, it is it's about the community projects as well. I've got a few in my ward that I really want to do greening projects, and how can we do it? And I think sometimes there's that little bit of bridging that we could improve, because I don't think they always know where to go to do it and how to do it, and if there's possibilities to do it and which land is what. And so sometimes, you know, maybe it would be quite good to have something online that outlines these are our plots, and you can do something if you wish to, and trying to bring them to it as well. So yeah, I'm definitely up for more community projects.
Thank you. I can see everyone nodding at the back, so I'll pass back to Dan and Felicity because I can see them nodding.
Absolutely, councillors. Yeah, we're very keen, obviously, to encourage community engagement with this project, with the greening agenda, and obviously we have the Green and Healthy City Community Fund, which we hope to be reopening again in the near future, and you know, an expanded greening team. So if anyone in your communities does want to discuss greening with us, then we've definitely got an open door to that, and Felicity would be delighted to hear from them.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah, and it's really exciting that we will have these two new people coming in at some point soon in the future as well, as something that the council always likes to do, and something I've always been on board with, is that we get community involved with us and we bring them along on the journey rather than imposing things on them. You know, you have less shouting and screaming, so to speak, if you make people aware of what's going on and feedback to them, bring them along on that journey, and in regards maybe just considering planting of trees and things like that, there's community involvement from the very beginning. There's probably less likely situations of vandalism and things like that as well, because the community do really care about something that they've worked on. So very excited about the new people coming forward. And as the officers said, if you guys have got anything, any feedback, anything that you want to look to doing, then let us know. And as mentioned, it's something we've just started discussing. Felicity's, I just said to her the other day, she's hit the ground running. She's doing really, really well. So, and it's something we've been discussing about the greening fund going forward and getting that open as soon as we can do. Obviously, there's a feedback meeting for councillors that we will have. I know Councillor Girardi, you're keen to find out a bit more. So, look forward to that going forward. There's not much more I can really say on it. Like I said, it's a really good report, guys, so thank you so much. It's really exciting, and you know, we know where we need to aim for now. So I'm more than happy to note this report and let it go forward, and well done, so thank you. I will now pass on to our final item, to Christina, who might have a magical presentation maybe, or not.
I do not have a magical presentation. Oh, starting well, aren't I? So I have an information report about an update on the progress and a timeline for next steps on a funded project I've been working on for the last 3 months. I think we have probably talked to death about this in the room, but maybe for the benefit of people online or reading this transcript, maybe I'll just add some context to sort of bring some life to these words. So this funded project was part of a central government funded programme from Innovate UK, who are the UK's non-departmental research body, I think is the best way we can describe them. And they launched a £25 million competitive programme, so that means we have to apply for it in a competition, sadly, so we are pitted against each other as local authorities. And it's aimed at accelerating innovative solutions. They need to be innovative, and overcoming non-technical barriers to net zero across 4 different systems. And that's a technical sentence to understand. But these 4 systems are sort of how we heat ourselves in Portsmouth, how we power here, how we use power, and how we travel around Portsmouth. And these non-technical barriers are what we've taken to really mean as the sort of not hard infrastructure, but those most softer, more socio-economic sides of barriers, like finance and funding, whether it's capacity and knowledge and skills, how we govern ourselves, organise ourselves, collaborate, policy and regulation from us. So it's really looking at those barriers and seeing how we can remove them, and we can decarbonise at a faster rate in Portsmouth. So where we are at now, and while we've put the report forward, is that we were at the end of phase 1. which was the phase that we're funded for at the moment. So we have spent the last 3 months collecting data, holding stakeholder engagement workshops, and in the last month we've sort of consolidated it all and sort of shortlisted what we thought our solutions might be. And we've just submitted a report to Innovate from that now, which isn't assessed, it's more just a requirement of the funding that we submit that. And then we were invited to phase 2 of this programme, which I think requires us to submit a proper proposal based on those solutions in September. So what happens in September is that of the 30 local authorities that are locked into the sort of phase 1, we get to go forward into phase 2. So it's already a bit of a closed shop. And the highest scoring solutions that are put forward into that, the top 5 will be awarded £5 million to implement their proposals. Or if we don't quite reach that status, I think we'll be allocated 150,000 to just achieve what we can and follow whatever's happening in the rest of the country. So that is where we are now, and there's not too much more to say at this time except that we will be needing continued officer support on this over the summer, and probably councillor support as well to help shape these things what we put forward. But that's it really, just some time. So yeah, I would like you to just note that and hopefully have your continued support for our submission for phase 2. And also I would like to, if anyone's listening out there, say thank you to our partners, City Science and the University of Portsmouth as well, who are also our partners on this programme, and also thank any officers who are listening who also put in lots of time to help shape this as well.
Thank you, Christina. I know a lot of officers from different departments have had involvement in this sort of feeding back. You held a workshop, didn't you? Can you remember how many people, how many organised attended? I know there was quite a lot, wasn't there, of all different backgrounds and areas.
We held 3 different workshops. One was focused on sort of domestic areas, so bits with housing associations and PCC people. Also, one focused on transport and one focused on energy as well. And even our network operator, SSEN, came as well to join those discussions. And I think, I'm not sure of single people, but over 30 different organisations came to that. So it was really well attended, and there's been a lot of energy around it as well, of people saying, I'm sorry I couldn't come, but please can you keep me informed of this? And so there's a lot of energy here, which is great to see.
I agree. It's great to see that a number of organisations from across the city and some of the bigger organisations that sort of, a bit more further afield as well were really interested and want to be kept updated, and really interested to see what we come forward, whether we partner up with somebody else, whether we just go forward as we are. I'm quite excited to see what comes forward, and I look forward to a report coming back here that everyone can see what we've pushed forward with. And I ask everybody out there to have all fingers, toes, eyes, legs, everything that you can cross that we can get this, because £5 million isn't something to sniff at, and it could really, really help with some of the projects we want to go forward. Decarbonisation obviously is a huge thing that costs a huge amount of money, and anything that we could do towards that or any other projects would be really helpful. I don't know, councillors, if you've got any questions or comments at all, or...
Just that we've been in contact with Sostrans quite a bit, so with all this process applications, I think it's, my fingers are definitely crossed. I'm sure everyone else's is.
Thank you very much. Well, if that's the case, I'm more than happy to note, and I will start off with fingers crossed, and then it will go to toes, eyes later on, so over the summer. So thank you very much, everyone. I think we've done that in record timing today, so everyone gets a bit of time back. So thank you, everyone, for attending, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, everyone.